Good morning, everybody. Oh, I've been waiting to talk to you guys. Could barely wait. Why, John? This is Tuesday. Not that I could barely wait, but I had all that. When I do these websites, I might talk long because maybe this will just be YouTube for right now. This video. I don't want to get too. I had to learn a lot of things on to do links and how to do sites, and I still am very incompetent with all of that. Okay, but I learned how to do all that because it was necessary in order to kind of transition the platform of radio. Many years right here I recorded, and when I recorded KCTA, I have the thing, and sometimes when I sat here and did those, I had different radio shows I did over the years, and some were on very small stations, little Mexican stations. I'm going to do a little on to Trump, okay? Look, I had all the guys I worked with, 90-something% of the guys at the firehouse were Mexicans. And we would laugh. I used to eat some of there's certain types of Mexican food that some people don't eat, but I eat, like tripas. Tripas in the Mexican. In the Italian term, my old Italian grandma used to make something, but it's different. Tripas are intestines with crap still in them, okay? To a degree. You know, they're cleaned out, but you don't clean them out. So you kind of got tripas that some people don't eat. I like tripas. It's a Mexican thing, and I used to order them, but some of my friends, and I'd laugh because of the firehouse, sometimes they'd have certain barbacoa. Barbacoa is beef, but true Mexican barbacoa, which is the barbacoa I like, it comes from the cow head. And so true barbacoa, you can eat it like in a tortilla, okay? We call them tacos here. My Yankee friends think different when they think tacos, but they're in a flour tortilla, and you put it on, but true barbacoa, it has the eyeballs, has the everything from the head, all of the meat from the cow head, and a lot of people would not eat real barbacoa. That's what that is. But so some of the guys at work and certain days, you know, holidays, maybe grandma from somebody, I'm going to bring the real Mexican food, and I'd eat all that. And I'd have Mexican friends. Now I'm saying Mexican, listen. And they would not. And we would make fun of, like I would laugh, hey, I'm a gringo brother. Now, John, all the years you talk about a lot of racism within things, whether it's certain police issues and all. What was your experience with being, you were like, there's a few white guys, but we were in a very small minority, maybe, 10%. Out of the Kingsville Fire Department at the time, we had 30 paid firefighters. Okay, it was a smaller city. I really didn't see any of that. I want to say I could give a good word for Kingsville, and most of the lines of division were drawn along political lines, meaning some guys were union, and I was union. A few years I was not in it because of political disagreements, but I was a union guy. But there was some that were not union. Now the guys that were not union and the guys that were union, that's where the divisions came. But the ones that were not, they had legitimate reasons. Because sometimes union protections also required, if we had a guy that was abusing injury leave, he didn't want to come to work. You have that in fire departments. And he doesn't want to show up, and he doesn't want to come to work. And so he's faking injuries. So you'd have guys that do that. Well, the union would still try to back them up. Sometimes we caught guys making fake doctor's receipts to get off of work. I kid you not. The captain once, Oscar, he opened up the printer machine, and one of the guys who didn't work there for a while, but he actually made a fake copy of a doctor's receipt that was still on the printer machine, copy machine. So those were the divisions you had. What I want to talk about a little bit, I was upset because on all of these little sites that people do, and me trying to get a platform so these videos can go out along with the little writings I do, and that's how we broadcast now. The old days, I'd sit here and make radio programs, and you always want to have an order. This was an old desk, okay? That's a little bipolar today. That's the drawer from the desk. But I had that old desk here for years. And I used to have all the radio tapes organized and have them in order. So if you're going to be effective in any particular thing, it's important to have a structure or an order to it. So I had a lot of them in there. Then I had the old ones. I still got some of them. And then I had master backup copies of cassette tapes. And I kept them in a safe. Why a safe, John? Because just in case there was ever a fire, and it still might have got hot enough, the safe still might have got hot enough, but for a fireproof safe, you want to make sure you don't lose 10 years worth of work. Now, every video I make and every teaching I do, I have on multiple backup flash drives. I never lose original work, I know that. And I have them on multiple. But the upsetting thing on the WordPress site, one of my websites, is, I was going to add a particular function, and it was called a hit counter. It just tells you how many people visit the site. And the other sites, my Google Plus and Twitter, shows you how many impressions and all people looked at it. But WordPress didn't have one. And then there's parts on websites where you go in on the site itself, and it's a tool that you add from the site, as opposed to importing a tool in, meaning you're going to get one online, you're going to copy and paste the JavaScript or whatever it's called. I learned some of this. But I realized the tool that one day I was looking last week, I said, they have a hit counter right on the website. As an admin, which I am, administration for my site, I go in and I add it. Now, that function is normally fairly simple. So I added it a couple times. I'm thinking, it's only showing 438 hits. But when you go to the tool, it already shows you had like 13,000 hits. But once so you're in the admin site, 13,000 hits, put that tool on the home page, 436 hits. I said, this has got to be something wrong, because it's showing you have, and it would show like how many visitors were visiting the last hour, 24 hours, 3, 6 visitors are on for the last. So I said, I know we have more. I mean, if you have 20-something people on for the last, 20 hours, I mean, and that's been going on like that for a long time, it's got to be more than 400. So I just wanted to know. But every time you try to add that function to your home page, it didn't work. So you Google, okay, how come the WordPress hit there? And then you read everybody else's comments. It doesn't work. From what I understood, was it never works for anybody. So why would they have that little function on that particular site that I'm doing on WordPress? And everybody, from what I can tell, that added that function that comes from the site never worked, because I read all the other statements. And then I realized, then you go to the process, I want to get a plug-in. Okay, you get another hit counter online, wherever, you import a plugin. There's two types of WordPress blogs. I won't get too technical. One is .org, one is .com. .com is the one I use because it's user-friendly for people who are not tech-savvy. And I pay for that site because it hosts links for the videos. That's the real purpose of that site. So when you see these videos, that's why you might wonder why I do too. You cannot download a YouTube video and keep it for yourself if you wanted to keep some of these for teaching. But you can download the WordPress video link, and that can be yours if you were using some of my studies, Roman study and little format for a church. You can have those. That's the purpose. So after a couple of days of working on site, I finally realized When you then realize the hit counter doesn't work, I'm sure many people have gone through this whole 7-year tribulation like I just did. Then you realize, let me try and import. Then you say, I can't import. Then you got, and then it says, and I knew this already, WordPress.com, you cannot upgrade. You have to have a WordPress.org if you want to import, which in the end means they want you to basically upgrade. And you're going to pay more for a site. Now, that's the only explanation I can have is why they would have that little hit counter. And it doesn't work for anybody as far as I could tell. Because it gets you through the whole process of finally trying. Because the hit counters are not high tech. They work on all the other ones. They're automatic on Google+, Twitter. It shows you how many impressions, retweets. All that's automatic. And those just function like blogs. So that's what I figured. So I bit the bullet and I just called the number. Once I tried to add the hit counter, and then I said, oh, I see it's not working. I'll do another one. It deleted not the links to my site, but it deleted what's called the blog roll. The blog roll is something I need because it shows all of the video and radio links, old programs I did. It shows them all on the home page. And I use that when I copy the links. You cannot copy the links from the admin because it doesn't open up on the home page. So if I copy the links, everybody that clicks the link goes to the admin page. So it deleted that. Now, it didn't lose the links, but I need that blog roll. So, back in the process. Okay, and I probably could have done it. I've learned enough by now. I probably could have restored that, but I got fed up. And I didn't like the manipulation that I just explained. So I called WordPress, and I told them, it's a tech thing, but they do the WordPress. And I was on the phone, waiting. And then he said, well, we could do it. They couldn't restore, if you lost the links, I know they wouldn't have been able to restore those. I would have had to go back and upload. I have them all saved, but that's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work. So I said, brother, I'm going to bite the bullet. I paid $170 for them to restore it. I think one is restored today, by today. Why'd you pay it, John? I could have gone and read all the other comments from everybody else, how to restore it, because a lot of people lost it, a lot have had the same thing. I've done that, and it's a full-time job to do that. That's where you have people that administrate websites for businesses. But I've learned how to do it. So, very upset though. I told the guy, I'm talking to the WordPress guy, and he goes to the side, I got to give him the password because they're going to fix it. And he reads the first post, which the one I posted, I got mad and I posted, answered the damn phone, WordPress. So he's looking at that post, he says, okay, I found this post, he's got an accent. I found the post. It says, answer your damn phone word. I said, oh, brother, I just put that one on there just a minute ago. That's the one he's reading. At least they got the message. It was worth $170. Now, I want to teach a little bit. I don't want to comment too much, but I'm going to say something about that little Trump thing. I understand the whole firestorm that's going on. And I understand that, but what I want the public to also see one thing is a lot of the way the media presents things. They did it again yesterday on something. And it's the presentation without letting people understand there's somewhat of a form of manipulation. The Mexican judge, maybe I'll title this The Mexican Judge. There is a judge that... Gonzalo Curiel. John, are you going to take Trump's side? Listen to me. No. But it's possible because the judge is very active in the pro-immigration movement within the country. And he had some ties to that, is it La Raza group, the race, which is a very pro-immigrant political group. And the judge is Mexican heritage. They finally admitted that, the media. His parents are Mexican. But the judge was born here, but he is of Mexican descent. That's all. Now, so when Trump brought that up in the media, now they're saying Trump is a racist. Because Trump, and they're asking him, are you saying that it's possible that a judge, because of particular political leanings, you understand, not because of race, but that if a judge has a particular political leaning, for instance, if he actually is Mexican in the sense that he's Mexican immigrant from his family, like I'm an Italian immigrant, is it possible that a judge could be prejudiced because he himself is politically pro-immigrant, which is not wrong to be pro-immigrant? That's what Trump has been saying. Now, should he have been saying all that? Probably not, because it's not politically correct. But it's possible that a judge would be biased, because we saw that here in Texas with the Devin Anderson district attorney out of, I think it was the Houston case, when the Planned Parenthood videos, the conservative group that took those videos, which were true videos, of how the Planned Parenthood people here in Texas, I guess Tarrant County, but here in Houston, Fort Worth, wherever, this area of Texas, they went in, they interviewed very famous, and it showed how the Planned Parenthood people, when they were talking about the body organs of the children that are going to these other companies, and they do sell them, they get money for them. That lady, Devin Anderson, DA, she charged that undercover video group with felonies. One's a 60-something-year-old woman. They're going to go to trial. They didn't plea bargain. But she was, that wasn't to just them, because she also charged the younger guy in that Planned Parenthood thing with the crime of attempting to purchase body organs. And everybody knows that those people were not trying to purchase. Those people were a conservative group that took undercover videos, because those conservatives too have a political view, which I hold to, which is anti-abortion, which is pro-life. So certainly judges, certainly prosecutors, certainly cops, certainly firefighters, all have the sin nature within them. And certainly they can use their positions in a way that is not just. That's human nature. And I just find it amazing that the whole media cycle the last few days is Trump, and many conservatives are also saying, well, if Mr. Trump believes that maybe the judge, because his parents are Mexican, and quote, the judge is Mexican. I'm going to maybe title this, The Damn Judge is Mexican, just for you to realize, you want to know what manipulation is. Manipulation. Title it The Bathroom Law. When the President and the Justice Department put out that memorandum to all of the states, this was put out a few weeks ago, and required the states, with threat of you lose federal funding, that all of the kids who identify as transgender in your public school system, even in grade school, I believe even in grade school, just basically said, if there's a boy who identifies, there's so much question of how you could know that it's a legitimate thing, or somebody trying to just get in the girls' bathroom. That's a legitimate question. And he put that out, sort of like a mandate. And it is true that there are some girls right now in some schools who are not changing in the locker room. There's a lawsuit right now, and it's not fake. Don't you really think that it's possible that some mother of a 10-year-old, knowing that her daughter is in grade school, and it's possible that a 16-year-old boy, or whatever the age, going up to a 14-year-old boy, might be alone, and maybe that 14-year-old is the one case of the kid that says, oh, I'm going to go in the girls' room today. I identify. Maybe it is something that's not a true thing. And you don't think that that mother, the media portrays, if that mother is really concerned that her kid might be in the bathroom alone with a 15-year-old boy, and that's a real concern. And there's a girl suing now because she won't change. And it's not a fake lawsuit. The girl, I forget what school it is, but she wears her gym clothes under her regular clothes. And that girl is not faking it because she was doing that. And then finally the mother got upset because the girl really felt ashamed. She was being forced to actually change nude. And that's school the way it was. And the boys walking around naked, identifying. The boys walking around naked, identifying as a female in that locker in that particular school. And they are telling that girl, you need to undress. They're putting pressure on her. And the media says, and they go and they interview people. And of course the kids are going to try and be open-minded and say, well, I guess we don't want to discriminate against transgender. And the purpose of me saying that is not to mock transgender, but is to say, don't you realize there are legitimate concerns that real people, mothers have, that maybe their daughters, while they're alone in the school, their parents are not there? Don't you think that might be a legitimate concern? And the media has spun that. They did an interview on PBS News. And they had one of the most balanced, manly-looking the person was born female. He's now male. I don't know if he had the sex change, but he's a university professor at Harvard or somewhere. Very balanced, okay? Which the percentage of people that do the sex change, that man they had interviewed was the exception. Because the statistics are, when the people go that far, the suicide rate and all is very high. It's very high. And they don't want to report that because it's not politically correct. So public radio or NPR or PBS News, it's all public news. When they interviewed that man, that woman, born woman who's now man, very balanced, very articulate, and a professor. And then the Christian conservative that they interviewed didn't look that great. Wasn't the best argument. But why didn't that man that they interviewed, they put him up there? He was the exception because there are many, I could have showed you many cases of people who, after they did sex change, the suicide rate's very high. Very high, much higher than the normal population. And those who've done that, you should know that before you speak out on all those issues. Know the after effects. So we have somewhat of a media manipulation. I want to teach a little, but I was going to do a little bit more. So when you see me title something like The Mexican Judge, or you see me, I'm very pro-immigrant. I'm very pro-immigrant. And the media is saying Trump, even some conservatives are saying Trump is a racist because we live in a country where race has no, and they're interviewing Trump. Do you really think that this judge, because of his race, he's born in it? Of course. I just explained to you the politics of life. It didn't have to do with my Mexican friends at the firehouse. It wasn't race that played the role. But we were politically motivated by union and non-union. But if your role is you're a political activist for a race issue, that motivates people in this entire country. We're an independent country because we broke away from Britain, because we had issues we felt were just. So of course people are motivated by what they feel passionately about. So if you simply ask Mr. Trump, do you really believe that a judge who is very passionate about a cause, that he believes is just, that he feels that the people of his heritage in the past, or others like blacks, were unjustly treated because of their race. And he is social justice in his nature, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Do you think, Mr. Trump, that possibly might affect the way he rules in a case? And then the answer would be yes. Yes, because people are indeed affected by what they passionately believe in, because that's the nature of humanity. So if you ask it that way, and I'm mad, not defending Trump, because the media does this. The media. Do you think, most people are looking at the Benghazi story. For those who don't do politics, we decided under the President Obama administration to remove and to back the murder of a leader of a country, and the country was Libya, coast of North Africa, right off the Barbary coast, I believe, but it's North Africa. Tunisia is on the left, if you're looking, and if I had a map, I think I got it. Tunisia is on the left, Egypt is on the right, Libya is in the middle, okay? And Libya was led by a man by the name of Muammar Gaddafi for many years. And Muammar Gaddafi was a defender of black people on the continent of Africa. And there were many leaders in Africa who did not defend black people. But Gaddafi was one who had a sincere, passionate belief. Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya, was not black-skinned. Okay? All the people in Africa are not black-skinned. I just talked about Egypt. You know what Egyptians look like, right? They're not black-skinned. So like a bronze-type skin, just pigment. But we decided when the President Obama was in office, because of various things, that we would back the people that were rebelling in Libya. And we would back them up to get rid of Gaddafi, and he was shamelessly slaughtered in the streets of Libya. I remember watching it on CNN. Okay, after we did that, many of the people that were fighting against Gaddafi were the opposite views of Gaddafi. Some who were fighting against Gaddafi were against black-skinned Africans, meaning they were, quote, racists. Understand this. Gaddafi's view, he had it, even those close to Gaddafi said for some reason he believes the black-skinned people have a particular noble calling. This is true. This is true. He had that view, which is fine. Which is fine. And the mercenaries from the southern part of Africa, the sub-Saharan, the fighters that were coming to help Gaddafi fight against the United States and against the racist rebels who were trying to overthrow him. They were not all racist rebels, but there were some. And these black-skinned mercenaries from the sub-Saharan were speaking French. I remember they were interviewing them in the streets at the time. I'd watch on this. Because of colonization, the history of people who have been ruled over for centuries. We see these things. And so, when Gaddafi was killed with our backing, there were black men in that country. They were not all savages. Listen to me. Some taught in schools, professors. Some were doctors in hospitals in Libya. And they had black children. And after the fall of Gaddafi, that country turned into a third world country, much worse than it was before, till this very day run by militants. And ISIS has got a tremendous foothold. And some of those black doctors who were professionals were drugged through streets like slaves. Your hospital's gone, your family's gone. And some of their black children were put into consignment as sex slaves. The boys. Now, if Bush was president, and he had an action that took, in some cases that did happen. That did happen. Because the anti-Gaddafi people were also anti-what Gaddafi stood for. And he was protecting the blackskins in Libya. And all my liberal friends who think it's such a wonderful thing, what about that? Do you think that's just? If you went to some Spawn hospital here and took a black doctor out and drug him with a chain and said, now you're a slave because the man who is protecting you, Gaddafi's dead, and we killed him with the backing of the United States. And here's your black boy, and we're going to sodomize your black son. That happened. And you say the media is consumed. Is that a just cause? What I just explained to you? You didn't even know that, did you? And so it's sickening to see how we're like sheep led astray. Because and in Libya you had, I'll call it the Mexican judge in the Benghazi video. I want to do this one, so I'll do it another day. So we established an embassy for the first time there in Libya, in a city called Benghazi, a U.S. embassy. And we put a man there by the name of Ambassador Stevens, and he loved the people, and he, for many years, was involved there, okay? And so our embassy, I might have had one before, but we reestablished an embassy there in Benghazi. And an embassy is a place where our ambassadors are to represent us and to be there. This is a good thing to do. Well, President Obama tried to use our action in Libya. I remember it. There was a CNN host, Fareed Zakaria, and they were trying to promote it as President Obama, as opposed to President Bush's actions in Iraq and others. Obama did it the right way because it was supposed to be a NATO alliance. We did it right, and it was a disaster. But the media and the political people supporting President Obama wanted to use Libya as an example of a democratic president doing a military intervention in a just way as opposed to what President Bush had done. Now, for that purpose, there were a lot of dangers in the embassy in Benghazi, and Ambassador Stevens sent communications to Hillary Clinton at the State Department, because she's Secretary of State, and made requests and said, it looks like people are scoping out this embassy here. It looks like there's a planned attack that's going to take place. And those communications went back and forth. And Ambassador Stevens requested, we need more protection and security. Because the people that we hired for security for that embassy, as unbelievable as this sounds, were private militant groups who were also affiliated with the terrorists, protecting us. That was the protection of our ambassador in Benghazi. Now, if I have the date right, I've not even read the story in a while. As you can see, there's many things that have upset me in my life. So we had evidence, and we had a request from the ambassador. And later, when all the text and emails and everything came out, that's when we learned they were saying to one another, man, they're scoping out this place. That our ambassador and his people in Benghazi at the embassy in Libya were saying, man, they're getting ready to come in and kill us. That's what came out in this Benghazi investigation that people think is a sham and it's political, which is a real investigation. Because when that came out, what it showed was they went in. What happened, John, those who are not politically involved? Sure enough, those militants and those radicals from Libya, the people we supported and got behind to kill Gaddafi, they went in and murdered Ambassador Stevens and his people. It's the first time in many years, maybe first time, I don't remember if we ever had a U.S. ambassador murdered inside the embassy. Burnt it, killed it, he died in the back room hiding and burnt that thing down. Now, when that happened, we didn't know everything I explained to you. Why was Hillary Clinton in the State Department not giving him the extra security he asked for? This is why, and this is no secret. because at that time there was a political campaign going on. President Obama coming up to the second time he was going to be elected. And they were using Libya as an example of a great thing. And it was promoted, and the bin Laden killing and all these types of things. But Libya was one of those things. The reason they did not give Ambassador Stevens that extra protection, they lied about it later and say, well, Congress didn't want to pay for it. Look, it would have been nothing. That was a lie. You could have sent another 20 guys, 30 guys, protection. You could have done a lot of things before it happened. Before it happened. And there was a reason, because they wanted to make it look like Libya was doing well. And so Hillary Clinton went on national TV and blamed it on a video that some man made a video that was anti-Muslim. And they came on TV, Hillary Clinton and others, and said, we will catch the people that made this anti-Muslim video that caused our ambassador to die. And Hillary Clinton was lying. Because the day this took place was 9/11. Not the 9/11 of the World Tower fame, the tragedy. Not that 9/11, another 9/11. If I got it right. Why is that important? Because I remember watching the news about it, me not even remember. One news guy said, do you think there was any significance, like a week later, that they did this attack on 9/11? Meaning it would have been planned. That's a big date in the mind of the radicals. 9/11. And that didn't get hardly any play, because it would have shown what Hillary and President Obama did not really want people to see. That it wasn't going as well as they said. Now do you see? And so when you see the Benghazi, the Congress is still investigating that under Trey Gowdy. But the crime was Hillary even told some of the, I remember seeing this before I knew everything I explained to you, and the public knew everything I just explained to you. She talked to some of the victims of the families of Ambassador Stephen, the family members of the victims. And when she talked to them, she said outright to them, oh, he was killed because there was an anti-Muslim video, which was a lie. That's not why he was killed. But she even used that political propaganda talking to the relatives of Ambassador Stevens, who was murdered, because the State Department did not give him protection. And they could have done it. And then later they manipulate the media and say, well, the investigation is going to show we had military troops within the vicinity, but not close enough. And so some said, why didn't you send the troops in? So this gets into scenarios that I do not hold to, getting a little more into the conspiratorial thing, that they didn't send the troops. But the fact of what I just told you was a political decision that was made to not really listen to the pleas of Ambassador Stevens for more protection. Because it's an amazing thing. I don't think we ever had an ambassador. I'm sure we have never had one that for weeks and weeks and weeks, him and his team were saying, oh, it looks like they're going to come in and kill us. Please give us more support. And the State Department, being run by Hillary Clinton, did not give the support. And the primary reason they did not beef up the security was because it was a political campaign going on. And if you beefed up Ambassador Stevens' security and saved his life, it would have not looked good in the media. Now, and that woman's running for president. And you have a problem with the Mexican judge. That's what the disgrace is. That's what the disgrace is. And the media still looks at it as that's what the problem was. And it was a disgrace to tell the families of that ambassador, who was killed, I believe it was 9/11, that it was not planned. Of course it was planned. That's why they did it. That's why they scoped it out. That's why all of the communication. Do you see that? But most of you, if you're watching media, you think anybody that has a real concern, like I just explained, you think they're nuts and right-wing radicals and anti-Hillary. The woman, for that one reason alone, she should not even be running for president. She should have admitted and resigned, because it was a disgrace. I remember watching one of the interviews with Hillary Clinton. I watched. And they tried to say, almost she was saying, we tried to warn Ambassador Stevens of the danger there. She almost made it sound like she was saying, We wanted to get him out. We wanted to beef up security. That's what it seemed like. I remember watching this. But he wanted to risk his life because he loved those people. That's how it came across before we knew everything. Isn't that shameful? Isn't that shameful that the blood of Ambassador Stevens, dead, who was behind the scenes requesting for help, saying, look, do something. They're scoping out this place. They're going to kill us, which they did. And yet after his death, for political reasoning, Hillary Clinton made it sound like they tried to get him out, tried to warn him, but he just wanted to die. And all the people like John, who are trying to bring up concerns, they're the ones who are racist. They're the ones who are against Ambassador Stevens, because he was a good man. Of course he was a good man. And the people like John that are upset about it is because you use political manipulation. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. That's a disgrace. And you're worried about the money of the veterans. I'm not a big Trump supporter. It's this that upsets me. And there was so much cash that the Clinton Foundation brought in, a private so-called charitable organization established by Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation. They were illegally collecting money from the leaders of Saudi Arabia, those corrupt monarchs, collecting money from them illegally because she was Secretary of State at the time. Even Bernie Sanders brought that up. These are way more than the $5 million that Trump supposedly didn't distribute in time for veterans. Do you understand? What is it? Gnats and camels. Jesus says, you're focused on all the little things, and these are big things. So, John, is this a big political speech? Not so much political, but are these things just that I just talked about? Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, if you're pro-Trump or pro-Hillary, and you're willing to overlook real injustices, like I just gave you some, you should see those things. And I'm pro-immigrant. I'm pro-immigrant. I hold almost to a view that's like the liberation theologian view from the heritage of St. Francis, from the Latin American heritage of Catholic priests and bishops who are very pro-immigrant. I'm very pro-immigrant. I used to see, I live in an area where you see immigrants that come through. Not as much as you used to before, coming out of Mexico. And I had friends of mine, I used to do Bible studies with some of them. They used to feed them. They're Mexican families. They all refer to them as Mexicans. They were born in Kingsville. They were born in Bishop. They were born in Corpus Christi. And none of them say they're not Mexicans, because it's just the way they understand, proud of their culture and heritage. And I'm pro-Mexican immigrant. I'm not a wall builder, I'm none of that. So then how could you be so passionate against what Hillary did? Because it's unjust. That's what. So this would be the Mexican judge and Benghazi. And I'll do Thessalonians another day. To my WordPress friends, our involvement, I don't see any leader, anyone that's going to be voted in as the answer, okay? And the only reason you hear me upset like that is that's media manipulation. Let me do this one. I guess it'll go long. I've been wanting to do a few. Look at this. This is so important. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1. I'll get this one in, because I just finished Ruth on some of the comments. 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. Now I'm going to want you to read this. I'm going to post it. We are bound to thank God always for you, brethren, as it is right or meet, because that your faith groweth exceedingly, and the love of every one of you toward each other aboundeth, so that we ourselves glory in you in the churches of God for your patience and faith in all your persecutions and tribulations that ye endure, which is a manifest token, evidence, sign of the righteous judgment of God. Your persecutions, your difficulty, and your tribulation is a sign of the righteous judgment of God, that you may be counted worthy of the kingdom of God, for which you also suffer, seeing it is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. What? It is a righteous thing with God to go after those who trouble you. It is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. Do you read the Bible? Do you preachers read the Bible? Do you ever read it? Seeing it is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. And to you who are troubled, rest with us, when the Lord Jesus shall be revealed from heaven with his mighty angels, in flaming fire, taking vengeance upon them that know not God, and that obey not the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, who will be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his power, when he shall come to be glorified in his saints, and to be admired in all them that believe. This is chapter 1 of 2 Thessalonians. Now, I think I might have mentioned it before on another video, because I got so many videos, so many links, so many websites. I've got the Benghazi thing messing me up. Just get that one first. It is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. Because what we're going to see is a theme all through the New Testament, however long we're going to keep moving. And we're going to see in another chapter of Thessalonians how Paul's going to say, he gives example after example of example how he was working and not letting the people support him in the churches that he was establishing. And this is the theme in the New Testament, because a lot of my good pastor friends who don't understand why the finances is not coming in, or not coming in, it's because sometimes we've not been taught. Maybe we went to Bible college, maybe we did things, but sometimes we have not been taught. I want you to read, because I'm just going to do a quick overview. This is chapter 3. We command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw yourselves, listen, from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which you received of us. John, does that mean you're smoking cigarettes that you're disorderly? I'm not drinking, I'm not doing meth. Is that disorderly? That you're doing that? Okay, what's Paul talking about? What's he saying here? This is chapter 3 of 2 Thessalonians. Withdraw from every brother that walks disorderly. For yourselves know how you should follow us. For we behave not ourselves disorderly or irresponsibly. What is he saying? Neither did we eat any man's food for nothing. But we worked, we labored night and day, so we not be an expense or chargeable unto you. What? We didn't let you support us, Paul says. We didn't let you fund us. I worked with my own hands night and day because we didn't want you to be burdened with having to financially fulfill the vision we had. Do you see that, guys? Paul, the great apostle, what are you wasting your time working, Paul? You got this great apostolic. He said, I did it to give you an example. Not because we did not have the power or the right to take offerings. They did have that right. Paul teaches that over and over again. But he laid down that right. He said that to the Corinthians. But to make ourselves an example, Paul says, we worked and did not let you support us. So we would be an example for those in the congregation, in the community. Look here. For we were with you, this we commanded, if any does not work, neither should he eat. Homeless ministry, feeding ministry. If you're not working and you're an able-bodied man, you shouldn't get free food. That's a command in Scripture. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, meaning they're not working. Working not at all, but are busybodies. Now them we command and exhort by the Lord Jesus, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread. So 2 things, real quick, we did. Paul is going to these churches as a great apostle. He's working, he's providing for himself. And he's saying, we're doing that to give you an example, because there are people in your Christian group, in your city, able-bodied men who are not working, and they should not be eating. They should not be eating if they're not working. You have to question much of what I've been bringing up the last few years of many of my friends who I love and help. There are some that are needy, women, children, others, some men that are in, but if you're able to work and you're not working, you're not supposed to be eating. And Paul gives, how does he show us how New Testament apostles or pastors are financed? In his example, in his life, you support yourself, you work. It's an example. It's an example. Then how could I fulfill the ministry? Paul did it. Speak the truth. Live. You can do it. You can do it. Don't use WordPress, though. Not just joke at the end. Okay. So, we did Benghazi. That's some, right at the end. Those chapters are important. I'm going to put those in. Okay? Anything else? Being it's probably just going to be YouTube. YouTube, you could go as long as you want. It doesn't take up space because it doesn't provide link. It's not a downloadable link. That's why. So this will be YouTube. I'll talk. Almost done. Key David, Mexican judge. Okay. All right? Let me bless you guys. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord be gracious unto you. And the Lord give you peace. God bless.